Welcome to the Pool Nation Podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Hey, today we're sitting down with Adam Beech with Pool Brain to talk about consistency and why the real foundation of scale, why traditional checklists are part of the past, and how workflow-driven operations are changing serious pool companies. Adam didn't just build a software company, he scaled his service company to over 1,000 pools. And what he learned about control, accountability, and repeatability might challenge the way that you run your business right now. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, a podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we do that, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, our friends at Pool Brain, Knee Deck, and Encore Filtration. We want to thank them for their continued support. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on, brother?
Well, first of all, I got to say, great job on the intro. Great job on the intro.
I did, right? I didn't get into my head, right?
I was like kind of hanging on the edge of my seat.
By the way, I know that as soon as you were not looking, John, but as soon as it went, these two just sat here and just were like, I think they wanted to intimidate me and kind of, you know.
No, you did great. I'm super excited to be up here today. We talked about it on the live a little bit, what we were going to be up to, hanging out with Adam. And I mentioned that we'd probably go down some rabbit holes. And I think we accomplished that a couple times yesterday, kind of geeking out on it. And I'm not going to spill the beans on what we're going to get into, but this is the stuff that like I'm really passionate about. And it really just gets me fired up. So I'm excited to jump in today and get into things.
All right. Mr. Flawless, are you tired of seeing me yet?
Years ago.
Right?
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
It's
brother.
just like my pep energy, just like you see me and you're like, just too much of this guy.
I think it's just jealousy. I think it's just envy.
What's the envy?
Well, then I wish I had that energy, you know. But other than that, no, look, hey, I'm in a great mood and super stoked to be down here. I'm excited. Flew in late last night so we can do this podcast here with Adam. Love having Pool Brain. Obviously, for all our listeners, you know, they're our visionary sponsor partners that we've had now for the last couple years. And every conversation that we've ever had with Adam and the team has always been enlightening. And I'm excited to not only talk about some of the new things. I mean, we're going to touch a little bit about what Pool Brain is doing, which is pretty exciting, and some of the new features. But more importantly, we're going to pick Adam's brain on the business side of it as well, and some of the struggles and what it took for him to be able to grow his service company to over 1,000 pools. And it's the struggles and the trials and tribulations that all of us go through as pool professionals in the backyard that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's nice hearing it from somebody who's been there and done that, and not only has made it through, but helped develop some software and has learned some lessons. And he's taken the time to come out here and talk to all of us so that hopefully we can avoid those pitfalls, or maybe give us a little bit of a guidance so that we can do what we need to do to be successful. So we really appreciate you coming out here, Adam, talking about your journey and how you got to this table here today.
Hey, John, just to let you know, before we even start the podcast over here, I'm going to throw it to Adam here in just a second. I do want to give a couple shout outs, but I want you to listen to this one. So,
Sure.
Pool Envy, it's the espresso. He started right off the bat, right? Atlanta Pool Sharks, big shout out to you. And then all of a sudden, Janie said to me, "Hi, handsome."
Oh, well, damn.
So Janie, like, what is that about?
I'm
Like,
sorry,
what?
baby. I'll get that vision appointment.
You know,
I know I forgot. It's been busy. I know you need new glasses, babe. I got you.
You know what it is? She didn't get to come to the podcast today, and she's angry at you, so she threw it out to me.
No, she's not wearing her glasses.
I'm kidding. All jokes aside, she knows how I am and that I would have done that, so she put at JJ Flawless. So she made sure that it was for you and it was not for me. So she's laughing over here. But hey, big shout out to MTF Bulls out there. Good morning, guys. Big shout out to you, Probase app. Big shout out, Jonah Lee. Big shout out. I'll give you a call a little bit later. And hey, Jen, big shout out to you as well. Excited to have you guys all on. Mr. Adam, welcome.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you on.
Excited to be here. Appreciate you having me back.
That dinner last night.
Yeah.
Uchiko, man. You can't beat it.
Yeah. I always said, like, that's probably the fanciest dinner that I ever go to. So it's funny because we're with John. So John's standards are like up here. And me, I could just go to Taco Bell and I just wouldn't care. But let me tell you, John, that's an experience.
Yeah, the person who would appreciate it the most wasn't there. I was sad about that.
I do have to say that I had a feat personally last night, and I ate an oyster, which was, I've never even entertained that
I know,
before.
like Adam had us eating
Swallowed
stuff.
a loogie before? Or anything like that?
It was a cooked oyster.
It was a cooked loogie.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, so John wouldn't like this because this is fish stuff, and John doesn't like fish. But I'm normally don't eat anything raw. I'm just kind of guardrails. Like if I eat sushi, it's a lot of the fried sushi. It's a lot of the rice. And we go to this restaurant, you order all this stuff, and it's like, I kid you not, it's like raw stuff. But it was all good. My problem is, I can't go back there and order it because I don't know what the hell we ordered.
Well, we're like Adam, just order.
What is this? And I swear, you told us 10 times what the things were. If you asked me for one name today, I can't tell you one.
I'll make you a cheat sheet.
There you go. There you go. But Adam, we are excited. Look, Kevin Embry is on here. Good morning. Let's go.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, big shout out to you, Kevin, out there. Hey, we missed you out on this trip. And then you've got Gray Sharks, big shout out there. And then CPO classes, Go Pool Brain, Go Adam. Supporting education and our pool industry. Saw the firsthand at the Southwest Pool Show in San Antonio. So big shout out to you from Lauren.
Amazing. Hey, Lauren.
So we are excited to jump into this podcast. Hey, a couple things before we get started. We do have the Heritage Boot Camp, which is going to be March 12th and 13th out here in Texas at the headquarters of McKinney. So if you guys want to go to poolnation.com, register. We're going to do 1 day of hands-on. Second day is going to be business and technical classes, and we're kind of doing something a little bit different. So on Saturday, we're doing the Matrix class, and the Matrix class is really going to focus on, it's going to be a 3-hour Matrix class where you have to come in, actually do some work. So during the first hour, it's going to kind of teach what it is that we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing the start, stop, continue method to kind of building a little bit of a business plan. If you have your team, if you want to attend, send me a message. Let me know that you want to attend. We'll have you guys come. Even if you just want to make it for the Matrix, we'd love to have you out. But by the time that you leave the Matrix, you're going to have a game plan for 2026. Then from there, we turn around, come back for a week, and then all of a sudden we're back at RAPAC out the 27th and the 28th. And by the way, that one's filling up really quick. So if you're going to want to go out to Oxnard, register, go to poolnation.com, go to the boot camp button, and out there we're going to be doing the same thing, some hands-on, and then we're going to be doing some business and technicals. We have a new sponsor that's coming on that we haven't said what it is, but we're going to be unveiling it there. And there's going to be an extra hands-on thing out there, which we'll talk
Bonus
about.
class.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little secreted to spill some tea. So we're excited about that. So get out there, register, and join us at the boot camps. You ready to go, John?
I'm 100% ready to go.
All right, Adam. Zach and I talked about this, and even John. We just went out to the Southwest Pool and Spa Show. And we bumped into a lot of companies that are wanting to scale. And even after the classes, we had people, pull us back and can you guys stay? We kind of want to ask you some questions. We talked to some pool pros that were kind of talking about, hey, I'm at 200 and I just can't break the barrier and I have problems. And I had X amount of pools that went green on me last year. And it just kind of feels like we kind of can't get over that out of that hamster wheel. We talked about it. We knew you were coming, and it was like, this is the perfect timing to talk about this because when we were at the Southwest, a lot of it was companies, and a lot of them were really kind of coming over and talking about scaling and how do you push through, what things do you need to have in place. I know that we talked about it yesterday. We talked about companies talking to us about inventory for products. that we talked about, some of the stuff that you guys are doing, that it's amazing. And so we're kind of excited that you're here because the timing is perfect. There's a couple of things that we want to talk about from the scaling side. And I think you're the perfect person because you had a company, you built it to over 1,000 pools, right? During that process, you figured out that there's certain things that you had to put in play in order to be able to kind of break through that barrier and be successful, which has turned out into Pool Brain. And we were joking around at dinner last night with the whole Pool Brain kind of concept that now we get, right? It truly is a Pool Brain because it's Adam that has been in the industry, that has done it. So that's where that comes from. To start really quick, I want to share with you, Adam, some of the quick 4 phases that we see kind of pool pros go through. And so we talk about the foundational stage, and that's pool pros that are about that 30, 40, right? One puller is doing everything on their own. They get to the balancing act. They're doing 80 or 90 pools. They're doing everything, the billing, the repairs, the service. And then that next stage is what we're talking about today, which is that scaling phase. And I think we see a lot of the challenges that are common to a lot of the pool pros during that roadmap. And so we wanted to talk to you about it because we talked yesterday and we said, hey, Adam, what do you think in your experience? What was one of the biggest things? And the first thing that came out was like the consistency. And that was huge, right? It's like you have to have this certain consistency in order to be able to scale, and you have to be able to kind of tame that. I'm going to jump in and ask you a couple of questions. When you were scaling and you were going past those few hundred pools that we were talking about, when did you realize that the problem wasn't really kind of the effort, the hustle, it was more of the consistency?
After I banged my head against the wall and tried absolutely everything under the sun for about a decade. It was not something I came by easily or quickly. You're right. Around 200 to 300 pools, there's definitely this hump that you have to push past. And there's ways to do that don't necessarily need a solution like Pool Brain, but would benefit from a solution like Pool Brain. But then I got to around 650, 700 pools, and it was like I just hit a brick wall. It didn't matter how much marketing money I put in the top, how many customers I put in the top, the same amount of customers would fall out the bottom. And at the end of the day, what I came to realize over time is that it was consistency. I kind of realized that fairly quickly, but the solution to the problem I thought was just better training, more supervisors, more follow-ups, put out the fires better, faster. And it's just not a recipe for success.
Yeah. You know, you talk about that, and it's funny, and I want to go back to what you were saying too, Edgar, at the Southwest show. It's a common story, right? We're all in different markets. We all have different circumstances, but when we're in these stages, especially when we're starting to grow, we fall into the same pit traps, right? Or pitfalls. And it's this vicious cycle. And like you say, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can gain 30, you lose 30. You gain 50, you lose 60. You gain 70, you lose 40. But it's this vicious cycle. And I think that's where people hit that brick wall, right? And have that problem. And you talk about consistency, Edgar, and you bring it up as well, Adam. It's become so frustrating. And you said you hit that around 600, 700. Most people hit that around like 300, 250, 300. Yeah. You know, in that area. But even to be able to grow up to 600 and then hit that brick wall, that's an accomplishment in itself. But to finally be able to get over that hump and be able to scale up to 1,000, right? That's very impressive. But no matter how much we talk about it or what we go through, it seems like every single person we talk to, and that's what we do at these shows. This is exactly what they do. They're running their head up against the wall, and without ill intent, but it just seems like they're having that issue. What point did you look around and think, we're working hard, but just this isn't controlled?
Probably after 2 to 3 years of hitting that wall is when I started to kind of feel that desperation sink in.
Wow.
And then I went another 2 years of trying to solve the problem in ways where I was literally losing money just because I was putting so many supervisors on it. Because my theory was, if I could just train a lot longer, get more supervisors in the field, do more follow-ups, put out the fires better, then at least I could solve the problem and then back away from it from there to see how can I make it sustainable financially. And when it came down to it, I was losing money and still hadn't solved the problem. So I came to the conclusion that I couldn't solve the problem that way, and looked out at the other companies in the industry, and none of them had really solved the problem. The biggest ones in the industry were just buying companies. They were swallowing them up like crazy and not growing. So it was the same problem, just at a larger scale because they were acquiring companies. So the theory was that if we could take the onus of all of the knowledge away from the tech, not away from the tech, but it'd make their job easier. So they don't have to know all the chemistry. They don't have to know every single pool and learn them from scratch. When a new tech comes onto a route, the software would just already know all the idiosyncrasies and the little unique things for that pool. And it would just make them do the right things at the right times in the right order, and then let the office know if there's some issue with the data. And so that's just the general concept around Pool Brain at a very high level, is that instead of relying on the technician in the field to do everything and know everything, which is not really a realistic bar because they're kind of set up for failure because of just the sheer amount of variables that it takes. And the sad fact in the industry is we probably should be training these technicians for like 3 to 6 months to give them like real education and experience on all the variables. And we can barely train them for a couple of weeks if we're lucky in many circumstances, especially in the summer, because it's just going to go green quick if you don't get a body on it. But that's not a solution.
Yeah, normally we go to that, like that 2 weeks, throw them out, have the expectation that they're going to know. And it's difficult, right? Somebody leaves and now you have to start with somebody with water chemistry all over again and kind of start through that process. And yeah, I mean, the mentality is exactly that. You kind of go and you say, if I add a supervisor, that supervisor can go and watch what it is that person is doing. And the reality is you're really not getting to the root cause.
Yeah. And not only that, you talk about what Pool Brain and what you're trying to do and what you were trying to accomplish was the headaches of hiring new people and the cost of turnover, right? Obviously, the hidden cost of turnover, most people don't truly recognize or appreciate the pain points and how much money it costs them. But more importantly, when you put a new hire out there and they're not trained and it's baptism by fire, right? The cost of how many clients or how many people are you losing because of that inexperience, right? Or that ignorance, or because they haven't been trained up yet. And setting them up in a position to where they're able to succeed because at least the bare minimum, right? You get to with the software program or with a training manual or something that they have to where now, even if you bring on a new hire, they have something they can fall back on, those rookie mistakes or those mistakes that cost you clients. You could avoid most of them, it's priceless.
But the customer feels it too, right? Because we talk about the employee turnover, but you get into one of those pools that's complex, you're kind of digging into all these problems.
I want to ask you, because we're sitting here, we're talking about consistency versus inconsistency, and I kind of want to paint a picture for a lot of the listeners. And again, we have these conversations and we're hearing these things. I want to talk about what exactly inconsistency looks like when you start scaling up and you're getting to 15 to 20 trucks on the road. What does some of that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Like the results of inconsistency, basically. Yeah, I mean, mostly it translates into green pools and customer complaints. So just pick an insert complaint here on he or she didn't do X, Y, or Z. Didn't empty a basket, didn't backwash a filter. I told him not to backwash to my flower bed and he did. I told him to put the hose back in the shed and he didn't. He walked in my driveway and I asked him not to. I mean, just name something. But typically it's the pool's growing algae for some reason. And that could be for a million things. It could be for a valve out of position. It could be for one setting off on the timer or automation system. It could be underdosed chemical, a misdosed chemical, just the wrong chemical, not putting chemicals in at all, the pump not priming when they leaving it in service mode. There's just 1,000 things that could go wrong. And there's no buffer for that failure. There's no like, hey, I'm going to show up next week and catch that problem. I'm going to show up next week and I've already lost a customer. So it's a full pass fail. It's a full win or die. And so when consistency doesn't happen, you just lose customers. There's no saving that customer typically. So consistency is absolutely critical.
Yeah, it's so difficult. And I think for us in our industry, and Adam, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think at the beginning as pool pros, and at least I felt that way, is I was going to get out there, I bought 50 pools, I'm going to grow. And at the beginning, it was all hustle. And let's be realistic, hustle will get you so far, right? And I think hustle gets a lot of people, what I feel, to that 200 mark. That's the hustle, but then you start to hit that wall right there. But if you are going to then start to scale from there, I think consistency is what's going to be able to kind of push that envelope.
Absolutely. That's what you have to be able to make it. Because consistency, let's be honest, your product is a person in the field doing a job. We don't sell baubles and buttons in this industry. We sell people doing services. And so if that person or that service is not consistent from not only for that customer being consistent visit after visit, but consistent customer to customer, when every customer has different needs, preferences, every pool is different and has different needs, in settings and chemistry, variations, the whole 9 yards, right? So how do you make that consistency happen? And if you can't control consistency, you can't control your product. And if you can't control your product, you can't control your business. And if you can't control your business, you can't control your income. And it just goes all the way down from there. So it all starts with that.
It all starts there. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something because go ahead.
No, before you get there,
Yeah.
but I just want to clarify. Consistency is one thing, right? But you can be consistently good at doing the wrong thing. You can be consistently good at doing it. So when we're talking, find something that works, right?
Yes,
A solid foundation and a process, an SOP or whatever it may be. And then once you do that, it's rinse and repeat and consistency and consistently good behavior or quality work or whatever you're trying to do. Not just, you can be consistent at doing anything and it doesn't necessarily work. It just creates more of the same problems.
I have another question from one of the things that we see, but I want to come back over here so I don't forget people and they lynch me later. Hey, Jennifer is saying, good morning, guys. Good to see you all. Catherine Osborne is saying, super inspirational. Adam really shows you never give up out there. And then you've got Drew Copolino, which is out there, and he goes, we have 50 trucks and just started on Pool Brain.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.
Freaking big shout out to you, Drew, out there. Excited about that. And then I want to come back over here. Hey, Gray Shark Pools, big shout out. Blue Legacy, Randy, Mr. Marcano, Maria, big shout out to you. Lucid Pools, Falcon Pools, Adam, what's going on? Pool Pro and Spa Service, big shout out to you. The Chlorinator, Mag, Aquaman, big shout out to all you guys. Thanks for listening out there today. We're really kind of excited that you guys are listening. Great episode. Adam, my next thing goes to one of the things that we hear in talking to a lot of pool pros, and I think it goes back to those people that are in the hustle, and I'm probably guilty of it at the beginning. You have a really good pool tech, right? You have a rock star pool tech that's out there that's doing it, and our mentality is at that hustle point is, I just need, this guy's just no good. I just need I need a rock star. And so we get into the mentality that what we need is a whole team of rock stars. And the reality of it is, can you have 5 Michael Jordans on the basketball court at the same time? It's probably not going to be possible. So to me, it's like, if a customer experiences depends on which tech is really kind of going out to do that pool, do you really have a system?
No, you do not. You don't have control. You are hoping other people are running your business at that point, basically, because they're controlling your product 100%. So, you have to figure out a solution for that. Pool Brain was a solution we built for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that something that you did at the beginning? Is that, because that was my thought process at the beginning. It was like, I just needed to replicate Greg and kind of clone him. And we joked around. I was like, man, I just need to clone you and I would be good.
Oh, yeah. No, that's exactly right. Because once you see it can be done, you're like, oh, look, it can be done. If this person can do it, then anyone can do it. And I can just make a lot of this person, and I can put people to train with this person and just elevate them as the example. And you think you can solve that problem by making all of your people rock stars. But the reality is that's way easier said than done, because you're not just making somebody sitting in an office a rock star. You're making somebody who is miles away from you, completely unsupervised, doing manual work in 120-degree heat with 1,000 variable combinations that they don't have time to learn. Realistically, they just don't. And you don't have time to train. And half the time, the company doesn't even have the tribal knowledge of those things, because they go with the tech. The rock star retains all that knowledge and then takes all that knowledge with them. So they take your product with them when they leave. And it's just not scalable. You can't scale a rock star. That's the problem.
And that's a great point, right? That rock star leaves and they take that product with you. They take what you're good at.
I think sometimes, and look, this might be going a little off script here, but I think sometimes having that rock star at first poses a big problem for
if he's
a
your
business
first
owner.
one.
Yeah, especially because it sets you unrealistic expectations, right? Yeah, you'll get the 1 out of 1,000 or whatever. That's a go-getter. People like us, people that are business owners, entrepreneurs, people that are self-made and hustles, and we're going to figure out and we're going to do what we need to do just because we're built that way. And you get lucky with that one rock star that does that work, that gets it or has that same mentality that you do, and they kill it out there every day on the field. And then when you bring somebody else on, right, to work alongside them, you automatically have this, well, this person sucks, when in reality, you suck because you're not training them well enough, right? You don't have processes in place. The reality is not everybody is a superstar initially, right? But doesn't mean you can't create them or give them the tools and the skills and develop them into becoming that rock star. And I think that's exactly what Adam's talking about and what Pool Brain's trying to do with the product and these processes. So I find it very interesting when you look back, because we've been in that position before too. It's like, or why can't we just be like this person? Or why can't, like you said, Edgar, why can't we just clone you? And if I can have 100 of you, we're going to be, everything's just going to be hunky-dory, right?
Or we get the bad employee and we're just like, man, why can't you be like Zach, right?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you, and it's like, that's
it makes
the
it even
solution
worse,
to the problem.
right? Then morale, right? And then so much more goes into it. But back on the questions, Adam, when something went wrong early on, what was your first instinct to think, I just need better techs?
Oh, yeah, that was definitely my first instinct.
Yeah.
Just better training, better ways to respond quickly to fires. To my pool's green, I'm going to cancel your service. How fast can you get out there and get someone in front of that person, talk them down off a ledge, explain you're going to give them a free month of service and you're going to turn it back around and do all this other stuff for them. And again, that's not a sustainable plan. And it might work if you could realistically train 1 million rock stars over time. That would be like a temporary stopgap measure. But that never worked for me. I haven't met anybody who's really done that at scale. There are people that argue with me on that point below around 8 or 10 technicians, but over that, I haven't met a single person that thinks they can build a team of all rock stars. And the other problem with that a little bit on the rock stars front is what you need. Like you just said, business owners, the type of mentality that can just wake up every day and just execute, self-starters, motivated, etc. That person is a business owner. So
true.
The person who's a rock star then eventually gets maxed out on their pay, because mathematically there's only so much meat on the bone there. And then it doesn't take a genius for them to understand that they can just go start their own company with very little capital and make a lot more money. So it's just not going to be someone who sticks with you, scales your business, and works for you for a long time typically.
Yeah, and I think there's different versions of rockstar. So I think I want to clarify that a little bit, because there are like more of an entrepreneur or someone that would definitely stay within the company and grow. And you touched on this a little bit about relying on rock stars, and whether that is you are able to build a team fully of rock stars, or your model is that you're relying on rock stars. I want to kind of hit on that again. I think that's a big risk that people don't recognize right away. And if they don't catch that early on and do some of these things we're talking about with process and procedures and creating systems for people to be successful on, that's a big risk. And what do you think happens to a company that relies on rock stars in that way?
What happens to all companies is that they just end up putting out a lot of fires. They end up training a lot of people who don't stick around or don't live up to expectations like they need to, especially in the summer. In the winter, it's a little bit more manageable, obviously. In the summer, it's just a war zone. You're in the trenches. You're just trying to respond quickly, keep your business afloat, and spin the hamster wheel, essentially. So if you're relying on rock stars, it's all the things we just covered, is you're going to end up with a few rock stars and then a lot of other inconsistent services that lead to customer churn and technician churn and a lot of expense training, because who's training those people? Your rock stars are training those people. They can't do as many pools or be as effective. And now they're doing double duty, but you can't really pay them double money. So then their morale starts to take a hit, and then they're more likely to leave or start their own thing. And so it's this vicious cycle that you just can't get off that hamster wheel, and you end up either finding a solution or selling out.
Right.
He talked about churn there twice, and which we didn't even think about and talk about, but we're talking about consistency for the customer side, but also the consistency for the employee side. You said churn twice, and my heart kind of skipped a little bit, because it's like, if you have that churn with the customers doing, and then that oh man, what a nightmare.
Accurate.
So another common question or a struggle that some business owners have and that we've heard is when someone else is sick, or when you need to have someone else cover someone else's route, what are some of the issues or problems, or what usually breaks when that happens?
Yeah, it's all the different unique things for that pool. Number one, the person is slower naturally because they just don't know where the timer box is off the top of their head, or where the gate key is kept, or, all the little things that can shave 5 to 10 minutes off a job. So they're already set up for failure just because everything's a little bit slower. But really, it's the things that get missed that are critical that don't seem critical. Again, one valve that you need to do this, or that this pump doesn't prime. So you can't just flip on the switch and watch water pour into the pump pot and then walk out of the yard. You might think that is going to prime because you've never done the pool before, but this person knows you actually have to manually prime this pump because it's on a high grade, or whatever the case may be. And so there's just naturally going to be this loss of service quality, and some of those pools are going to turn green. And then the technician that comes back the next week is going to have a morale hit because now their job's harder. The technician who had to cover the pool, their job's harder. So you need a system. That's why we did this with Pool Brain, is to where the whole concept is that you can put all of the knowledge into the platform for all the unique things that that pool needs that are critical. And then no matter who shows up to the property, the right things have to be done in the right order, at the right frequency, in the right way. And again, if there's something missed, the system will be analyzing that data and it will tell you in an alert in the dashboard.
It's like an instruction manual for that pool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And like a lot of times people, how do I do this? Did you read the instruction manual? You know what I mean? Everything is in there and it's a blueprint, and all the habits or all the quirks or whatever it may be is literally right there, so anybody can look into it and go, hey, okay, now I'm not going in this blind. And you set those people up or your technicians up for success when they walk into the backyard.
I have a question for you. And I know we're going to get into next into kind of checklists and workflows and kind of how they're different for everybody. For you, during that journey, and maybe go back to the early stages of Pool Brain as you started creating it for your system, how did you use that to really kind of start to fix the rockstar techs, right? You obviously knew I need to create a system that's going to put them through X, Y, or Z to be able to kind of solve that problem. But at what point in your journey did you figure that out and you started going, we need something where we can go into every pool individually and that tech walks in and knows what's going on?
Yeah, so it was about probably 5 years after I started to hit that wall. So a long time of banging my head against the wall. Like I said, we were losing money. We tried everything under the sun. Didn't work. So I kind of gave up at that point on trying to make better technicians. And that I just completely flipped my thinking. So if I can't make the technician better, how do I make it easier for the technician so I can just swap people in and out? Because if they're going to turn over consistently, how do I make it so that someone doesn't need a lot of training and can still do a good job? That was the alternate path. And my theory was that if we could just bring the data into the system, like I said, then we could kind of solve that problem. And it worked so freaking well that we nearly doubled in the next year and a half, even without the system being fully dialed in yet. And we knew we had a great solution for that.
I'm excited to start nerding out on some of this because we're talking about it and the myth of like a rockstar technician. And it is truly a myth because I have my quirks, you have your quirks, and you do.
Oh,
and
no, John's
you
perfect.
might go in the,
John's perfect.
Yeah. But like one person might be a rock star in all these areas, but they might have some, struggles in other areas. And then another person, that's what you always talk about, strength-based businesses, right? And what we're about to get into and talk about, like workflows and things like that, that creates a standard for everyone to fall into, to follow the process and to win, and therefore set them up for success, whether they are strong here or strong there. And that levels the playing field for a lot of people. So I'm ready to.
And I agree, right? I think you kind of get into that rock star and what you've done, the mentality of kind of how do we take that out of their hands, right? And what systems do we put in place to be able to kind of address that? So let's say that John's doing my pools today and there's this big, huge, complex pool, right? And it's got 6 pumps and it's got this, like, how does that pool pro, how is he able to walk into that backyard and kind of follow that workflow and go, the software is telling me that I need to do this and this. And as long as I follow that workflow, I'm going to hit every point that we've ever dealt with in that pool. And I think it's amazing what you've done and how far you've developed it, right? Because the first ones were just a couple of things. And I want to talk here in a little bit about some of those things that you have implemented into the system, which are completely game changing. Before I want to do that, I kind of want to explain to everybody the difference between checklists and workflows, because I think a lot of people get that confused and a lot of people think, oh, the checklist is the same thing as a workflow. And it is not. It is not. And when we're talking about being able to scale and having to have that consistency and be able to give tools to those rock stars for them to be able to do the job and be consistent at doing that, you don't need checklists. What you need is workflows. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that so that the pool pros that are out there listening go, okay, I understand and have a clear picture of what that workflow is, because they're not the same thing. So every company always says, I have a checklist. And that's the first thing we talk to people and they're like, we have a checklist. right? But why is it that a checklist doesn't solve a problem in the pool industry?
Few reasons. And first, I want to just point out that I almost always had checklists. Like from 2000, I think late 2006 is when we adopted Service CEO, and then Service Bridge in 2009 was the first cloud-based platform with an app. But, we always had checklists, whether it was on paper or whether it was on an app, and it never solved the problem. And we always tried to manipulate it with checklists. You have the same customer call in and say, don't do this, or make sure he does this. And you say, make sure, Mrs. Jones, it'll definitely happen. You put it in all caps, and it's marked off as checked, but they don't do it. And why? And the main reason is there's nothing enforcing that. And a lot of times things need to be done at specific times in this industry. You don't want to throw in certain chemical before you backwash. There's orders for brushing and vacuuming and all this different stuff, or emptying baskets, or literally anything. There's orders that have to be followed. So checklists are just that. It's just a list of text on a page. That's just a word wall. And when they can do anything and they have to see everything, because checklists have to list every possibility. You have to say backwash, clean filter, clean salt, like all these different things that you could do on site, but you're not going to do those every single time. So you're still relying on the technician to be trained and self-motivated to know what they need to do and do the right things at the right times, and then mark them off. And they're just not, in a realistic scenario, if there's not a workflow, they're not going in and emptying a basket and then pulling out their phone and going, emptied, and then brushing and then being like, brushed, or whatever, They're going and doing whatever they want to do, quite frankly. And I'm not even saying they're trying to cut corners. A lot of technicians are doing, what they think is right, but there's so many variables they just don't know. Or if it's a pool they're covering, they just don't know. Set up for failure, like I said. They do all that work, and then they just go back to the truck and they go, check, check, and they move on with their day. I did it. I knew it because I did it.
I was going to confess I did it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's happening. A workflow is different because, for example, before pictures, I used to always tell them, take before pictures, take after pictures. That's a basic thing. And I would always get a lot of after pictures and before pictures that were just the same as the after pictures, because they would just do it at the end. Oh, I forgot, et cetera. So a workflow is when they show up and they start a job and it just tells them the right things at the right time. So the first thing is the when arriving space. What do they have to do when they arrive? And that might be stopping for this lockbox and get a key first. Don't walk on the driveway. Make sure you use this entrance. Things that they're seeing at the right time in a relevant place so they actually do it. Also, if it's there in your face, what really needs to be done. Because we don't show them everything that can be done. We just show them what absolutely has to be done that day. So they don't have to wonder, is this relevant to me today? Am I trained enough to know if it's relevant to me today? It's relevant. You're doing it, and so it's just a path that they follow versus something that they have to figure out. And I could talk about that for an hour.
Yeah, I think most companies, especially when you're going through that scaling phase, Zach, and you can tell me, but it was the same thing. It's like, I can just kind of create a checklist and give them the checklist. And most of the time, they don't even read the checklist. They just kind of go through, and at the end, they check, and they're done. When you had your checklist and you were doing during that phase that you were like, hey, checklist is what works. I know that I got to do this. Did it give you the illusion of control back then? Was it
100%?
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And I would just be flabbergasted every time we'd write it, and then we'd write it in all caps, and we'd write it 4 times down the page, and it would be different technicians. It wasn't like the same technician that was just ignoring it. It was just different techs that would consistently, they'd be like, oh, I didn't see it, and I get it now. I get what they're doing, but you can't just ignore the instructions for a pool, because every pool is very specific and needs a specific set of instructions. And you can't keep it in your head because you're not going to be the one that does that pool all day. So a lot of people, they think, oh, I know my pools, I'm good. But it's not just you on those pools. And what happens when you leave? You take all of the knowledge of those pools with you, and now the business is going to suffer for it. So the knowledge has to be in the platform, and the technician executes on that knowledge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you're talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, I could see putting on a checklist, check pump basket, and you get there and there's 6 pumps and they check one and they go, oh, check, right? And it's like, I didn't check the other 5 pumps that were on there.
Dude,
it says just check pump.
I'm giggling because what Adam's talking about, that was me. There was a time when we had everything, check pump basket, do this, do that, do this, do that.
And it felt good.
And I walk in, I would get in the trunk, go boop, 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 right? You know what I mean? But then when you started bringing employees on and doing it, I learned real quickly, we took away those checklists because I don't even send those out to the customers. We have them now like internally for us and stuff. But it just becomes almost, I don't know what it is, but you're 100% right. If you're just throwing a checklist out there or a list of things that need to get done, or not necessarily need to get done, that could be done at a property, to have them sit there, pick or choose or whatever, I guess it's human nature that you're just going to go there and you're going to do it. And us as business owners who have the most skin in the game are doing it ourselves, right? How are we not going to expect our techs to eventually, maybe the first couple months during the honeymoon period, everything's nice and perfect and they're going through and they're doing it right and they're meticulous and they're making sure, but eventually you get to the point where they just start doing it, right? And they're like, boop, 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 and it just
cutting those corners.
Yeah, just cutting those corners. So no, I get it 100%. Adam, what breaks when the order of operation isn't enforced?
Everything that allows you to offer consistent service. It comes back to the customer complaints. Oftentimes in a company, it was definitely true of mine for a while, the office staff, they're just punching bags. They just get calls all day long saying, I'm going to cancel over X, Y, or Z reason, or if you don't get out right now, or all these things that we already know about. So if you don't have that consistent workflow executed on, you're going to have these calls, and those calls bog down your office, and it bogs down your field staff, and then it's just this vicious cycle. Essentially, the whole thing breaks. It's like a spike in the cog.
I want to ask, because you kind of touched on this a little bit, about unique things to the body of water. I want to ask you, what happens when the checklist doesn't adapt to the specific body of water, where it's just more of a consistent thing throughout the entire?
That's when the key critical things get missed. Just off the top of my head, sometimes they have those fake rocks that cover over like a hidden skimmer basket or actuator or something, and you don't even know it's there to check until the pool's green or the spa's green or the fountain's green or whatever, just because there's some restriction that you didn't even understand was there. But if you put that in for a specific body of water that says, make sure you empty basket under that rock, and you have them require a photo of it proving it was done, and they do it right then, it gets checked off as it's done because of that, you're going to get that consistent service. And furthermore, you can prove it to the client that they got good, consistent service, and that just eliminates the calls into the office.
Yeah, and to all the pool pros that are out there listening, we talk about the consistency. We talk about the rock stars. We talk about the checklist. And this is exactly why those checklists do not work. Because if you have a tech that has that complex pool and has that skimmer under that rock, that checklist can't adapt to that specifically right there. And so therefore that checklist is it's worthless. It's garbage. And so when we talk about those workflows and we talk about checklists, that's why it's so important to move over into those workflows and create those workflows. And there's a couple of them that I want to talk about that I was really impressed that I didn't even think about, that you put one workflow and one step solves two problems over here if that workflow is set up correctly. So I want to jump in and talk about that, but let's do this. Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, I want to jump into the workflow, because I think this is a part where companies that are scaling really need to focus on and finding tools that have workflows. Not just any workflow, but be able to customize that workflow for every single pool. And John, you've got a lot of crazy pools with 2-3 bodies of water and all that kind of stuff. And just being able to grab that workflow for that pool and kind of change it into 3 bodies of water, right, is going to be very different than just the checklist.
Yeah, when we come back to, I got a thought on that. I want to talk a little bit about an analogy between checklists and workflows.
Oh, John's going to be dropping some workflows. Hey, before we go out, let's do this really quick. I want to come back and make sure that these people don't feel like we forgot about them. 858 Pools, big shout out to you out there, brother. Hey, let me know if you're going out to the boot camp. Michaela is on listening. Super Piscinero, Leon Brown, what's going on? Leo, Mr. Todd Pieri, refreshing to see talented people, manufacturers moving this industry forward with the professional and end user in mind.
What a concept, right?
I hadn't put these two guys in that same category, right? It just dawned on me.
I think he's talking about you.
No, he's definitely talking about you. It's really kind of focusing on the user at the end of it, right? Which is what you do. And we're going to get into next, and we're going to kind of geek out. Hey, Virginia, big shout out. Gremia Pools, Jeff Ruffs, 7th Gen, Beto Pool Services, big shout out. I need to give you a call. CPO classes. And then we have Catherine over here that says easier tools for bigger success. Pool Brain.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be right back, guys.
Shout out to my wife, Leslie.
Wow.
I love you, babe.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the pipeline pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the pipeline pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the pipeline difference: incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the pipeline pump from Aquastar. Available now. Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We are talking to Adam Beech, owner of Pool Brain. And now we're going to get into the geeky parts. If you guys are out there and you want to scale, we're going to kind of get into some geeky stuff out there. John, you doing okay? Am I a little too chipper for you, or do I need to tone it down a little bit? Or how am I doing?
Like it matters.
Like it matters.
You got one speed, bro.
I'm on 1-speed motor.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. So are you a variable speed?
Yes, I am.
You're a variable speed?
I am very energy
efficient.
Very energy.
You run on low
when I need to. Yes.
So
but we can wrap it up.
What is Zach? So he's one of the old 2-phase motors.
No, I don't know what Zach is.
Yeah, he just has the 2 speeds where it's like either or it just disappeared off the grid.
Yeah. Zach is Zach.
I'm a 2-speed, but low speed doesn't work anymore.
He's single speed for sure.
He's single speed.
Consistently 1 speed. You know what I mean? There's no highs, no lows. It's just consistent Zach, right? You know what I mean?
I totally thought he was gonna say he's consistently a pain in the ass. That's what I thought was coming out of his mouth. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, Poolology, let's go, Adam. Kevin out here. The knowledge of each pool has to be in the system so all of your techs can execute on that knowledge, no matter who services that pool in the future. The next one is Lacey. I'm always so impressed by how so much thoughtful logic exists within Pool Brain. The customization that they can do per pool is amazing. Close the gate behind you due to the dog. Do not let Michaela's unicorn escape. So for all of you, if you know, you know. Big shout out to all you guys out there. And then let's just kind of do a quick jump over here and give a shout out to Caden, Occidental Reduction Potential. That's a big one. Corey and Charlie. Big shout out to all you guys. Okay, so we've talked about consistency. We've talked about the rockstar. We talked about checklists, and everybody listening, checklists do not work, especially in our industry. They do not work. So we start to talk about workflows. And this is something that at some point, that light bulb, that pool brain of yours went off, right? Boop. And you kind of figure it out. It's in the workflow, right? The solution to a lot of the consistency and a lot of the problems is in the workflow. And if I do this based on workflows, and I take that required knowledge, right, and I can kind of turn it into a very step-by-step repeatable workflow process, is going to solve that. But what I want to do is, before we talk about that, I want to kind of explain to everybody, simple terms, what is a workflow, because it's not the same thing as a checklist.
Yeah, it's a guided process to do something instead of just a wall of text on everything they could possibly do. You're only showing them exactly what is relevant at that exact time for that exact body of water. And that's a huge difference. So you can show up, there's a when arriving section where you might say, don't walk on driveway, or make sure you use this entrance, etc. Then it goes into then it goes into before pictures. And of course, all this could be optional. You could have nothing on the when arriving section. It just skips it. You could make the before pictures optional, and then they can just skip it. But obviously, I recommend you make the before pictures mandatory. And then they have to take before photos as before photos. They can't forget it. And then it moves into a job in progress section where there's some things where they do have some discretion over when they can do some things, but they have to do certain things before they move on to the next section. Chemical readings as well. I think actually I skipped over. You're doing chemical readings before job in progress. It's very critical that you have chemical readings up front, because you need the readings to then basically indicate what you're going to be doing after that. And for the automatic dosing portion that comes, you need the readings prior. You also want to make sure that they actually are taking readings and letting the automatic dosing happen, versus just thinking they understand the pool and just being like, this is a half-gallon pool. That's not how pools work. You have to be exact, and that's how you get your savings and efficiency, by doing the right things exactly at the right times for the right bodies of water. Then you can move on to, there's a million different things you can do, right? But then it goes eventually into a PSI gauge photo. This is actually critical for it to be at the end of the workflow. We actually started with this at the beginning because the theory was save the tech as much time as possible, of course. And they're going into the yard. Usually the first thing you do, at least what I did, was I fired up the pump just to make sure it was going to prime, it was going to run, and then I could come back and do whatever. I could make sure the PSI is good and then just keep moving on. But we could not get a good, consistent PSI graph off of that at the time. So we ended up changing it to where, okay, it can't be at the beginning. Let's do it in the middle. Middle didn't work either, just graphs all over the place. Then we said, okay, how about we do it at the end? And the theory is that if you get a PSI reading after all of the baskets have been emptied and after the backwashing has happened, et cetera, you're getting a good, clean baseline every single time. That worked a whole lot better, except for about 30% of my technicians was still just like flatlined or all over the map. Then I realized they were lying about the PSI gauge. So then we added the photo, and now magically it just works for everybody every single time. And what also you get from that is very critical is if you're doing the PSI gauge as one of the last things, you're guaranteeing that pool is being left in a condition that will prime. Not just prime, but prime well enough to turn over the water, not put the pool at risk. We actually didn't even understand until we built this and really analyzed everything in detail that a pump being left in a poor prime or no prime condition without anybody actually knowing or resolving it was a huge reason why pools were turning green. We pretty much solved the first part with automatic chemical dosing. We get into that later. But the PSI reading really solved all the other issues with pools turning green. Just between those two things alone, we reduced our green pools by over 80% with less effort. So from PSI reading, you go into after photos, obviously self-explanatory. If you're going to take before pictures, you definitely want after pictures. And then a when leaving section, because there are things you need to know or check and do when leaving. Maybe it's the gate. That's not something I really made my people do every single time, because a photo of a gate can kind of be an onerous thing to set all your stuff down and whatever. But for specific examples, if a dog did get let out and the customer is about to fire you over it, you can tell that specific customer, like, hey, Miss Jones, you're going to have a picture of a locked gate every single time when they leave your property, and it will happen. You can tell customers things will happen, and it will happen if you force the photos. The other thing you could do on the when leaving section that's actually critical is another way to pools turn green is the automation system gets left in service mode, and then it just never runs. Or it runs nonstop. It's one of the two. So you could have them say, make sure the system is in timeout mode or in auto mode or whatever before they leave the property as the last thing they do. So there's pieces in there that have to be done in a certain order or they don't matter. If you tell them to make sure the system's in service mode or not in service mode in a checklist, they can do whatever they want. They're going to look it over. They're going to go in the truck and just say they did it. It's just a walkthrough versus a list of things that they just have to figure out.
And I love that one, John. You kind of, and Zach, you kind of sit back, Zach, for you that you've got a lot of texts. It's like, how many times do you get calls that the pump's not priming and that it's not done? And just because of that workflow, and this is what we're talking about, workflows, right? It's not a checklist where you could go, I looked at the PSI, check, right? It's like, if you have that guided workflow and you're in that stage where you need to take a picture, that gauge is going to be up. And therefore, if that gauge is up, then obviously you've solved the problem of that pump priming. And that's huge when we talk about workflows. And then you don't have to go back, right? Because the pool is going to turn green, right? But even a callback. So let's say that the customer does catch it. Now Zach has got to send somebody else to go over to go figure out why the pump is not priming and why that becomes a struggle.
It protects them. We've had several occasions throughout the years where we get that call about something and it wasn't the technician's fault, but we get in this kind of like he said, she said. But if you have some documentation that clearly proves that when they left, here's the filter PSI, the pump was priming, the gate was shut, then there's no question about it. And you can easily defend your technician.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, when you figured out this step of your journey of this is the way we need it, this is the way we're going to solve a lot of problems. What were your first workflows when you first started to program it or code it or whatever we want to call it? Were your workflows just kind of pretty much like standard to everything? And then you kind of started to figure out, I need to change this and I need to customize it. Let's not even talk about everybody else because everybody else wants to do it how they want to do it, which I think you talk about, which is like, you can turn it on if you want to, if you don't want to, you can name it whatever you want. You can, but what was that journey of getting, because the workflows that you have now are amazing to every pool and everything that you could do. But what were some of those first workflows like?
Yeah, so when we first started, I really wanted to focus on automatic chemical dosing. So we took a stab at that early on. We forced the readings at a specific time. We forced chemical dosing at a specific time. I wanted to solve the main problems that we were experiencing for customer complaints calling in nonstop. Baskets didn't get emptied. Backwashing was a big one. Not cleaning filters or salt cells on a certain schedule was a big one. So we made sure that we had an architecture, which you need for a pool-specific platform, to where you have customers and then multiple multiple properties under those customers and then multiple bodies of water under those properties. And then an equipment set that's specific to the system. It's not just like custom typing in pump, filter, et cetera. So you actually know what it is and what's happening with it. And then automations underneath those equipment sets. So based on what's on the pool, whether it's a cartridge filter or a sand filter, it's going to need different things. So once you say, hey, there's a cartridge filter on this pool, the backwash comes away from that pool automatically. You'll never see it again because obvious reasons you can't backwash it. And then you're going to have your filter clean schedule automatically be in place to create jobs automatically on whatever frequency you want with whatever charges you want. You can have the technician on site be forced to do it automatically, or you can have a different job created for a repair technician to go out and do it automatically. So these are the types of things I want to do. Backwash frequency, that's a big one, turns pools green, big complaint. People are like, oh, it doesn't need to be backwash. It doesn't need to be backwash. And every tech every week decides it doesn't need to be backwash for 4 months, and it's a problem. So it forces that. I can't let it go too long without being backwashed. Those are the main things, like baskets, photos, before and after photos, being true before and after photos, some basic automatic dosing in the beginning, and making sure I can control the equipment specific things that were critical for flow and in revenue, quite frankly. Filter cleans and salt cell cleans were big revenue for us. So that was the original thing. The other things came in a little bit later with the more advanced dosing, and the PSI gauge was something we added on later when we realized we were still turning pools green and didn't know why. And I had a theory, and it turned out to be right, that they were just leaving it in down conditions and they didn't even know it. But again, it's all about technicians trying to do what they think is going to get them the best job for the fastest outcome, and that doesn't always actually work.
So do you sometimes find yourself looking at some of these work, because I'm assuming a pool that has, and John, you got some crazy pools with 8 or 10 pumps and stuff like that, that workflow can be kind of long. So I'm sure you see some of those crazy ones. Mm-hmm. How much did it change when you're not doing pools anymore? Now you are building the software. Now you're Pool Brain. Now you're probably getting 5,000 requests for customizations of those workflows. Yeah.
So you have to be really careful, because once we do make it very customizable, to be clear, but there are certain things we can't compromise on because it's going to break the system. I know that for a fact because I lived it. For example, PSI gauge is a great example. When people first use the system, they don't understand why it's at the end. They think it should be in the beginning for the same reason I put it at the beginning on version 1. And then usually I can explain it to them, and usually they understand, but not always because they haven't lived it. But that's something we can't compromise on, because it then doesn't solve the biggest problems that Pool Brain, quite frankly, solves. So you have to have certain things in certain orders. And really, Pool Brain is not just a tool to create your own workflows for anything you want to do. To be clear, you can do a whole lot of what you want to do, but it is a system that's tried and true to manage pools that works very well. And so we want to make sure everyone can customize what they want within the bounds of a really good pool management system. And that's one of the reasons we're unique, is that we actually have like a prescribed system to follow that's proven to solve the biggest pain points in the industry.
So Adam, why does forcing steps matter so much?
What you mean as far as order, which... Yeah, so some of the things we were talking about, if you just say, hey, take before pictures and after pictures, you're going to end up with a lot of after pictures and no before pictures, because they're just racing, they're doing it. It happened every time with my company for many years. I even at one point came up with a system where if you had before pictures and after pictures consistently in there, you would get paid some ridiculous bonus, and not one person collected it. Really? Yeah. And
you can't go back and get that before picture if you miss it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just you have to have things in a certain order, and if it's forced, then you know it's actually being done, because anyone can cut a corner and say they emptied a basket. They can say they backwashed a filter.
Sure. And what's funny is a lot of this stuff, sometimes as business owners or as a technician, when you're implementing these types of things, you kind of look at it and go, wow, this is really tedious, or and you might give it to your guy or gal, whoever's doing it, and at first they might be a little resistant towards it, but when they work the process and they see it and they see how much time is saved overall, and then the minimization of customer complaints and go backs or performance talks, and having that, God, I forgot to do that again. And I can remember days with us, like I'm still out there doing pools and servicing pools, and customers are used to me and when I'm out there, and things are a little different when I'm out there servicing them. And like I go through the checklist or whatever it may be. This was years ago, in a particular home, and I would have one of my techs when I'm either flying out here or doing something else, and he's going out there and he's servicing it and going through the checklist, and then I get a call and it's like, oh, he said he changed the pump. He said he emptied the pump basket, but he didn't because there's a camera right there. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, yeah, I can tell you I probably haven't emptied that pump basket in the last 3 or 4 weeks, right? Because I got an inline basket. When I walk back to the equipment, I look into it and I can see it. It doesn't need to be emptied or whatever. But the fact that he would put, empty pump basket, and a customer looks at it, right? And then all of a sudden they get... But now what I would tell him, and what we did to fix that, and what you guys have done, is like, hey, look, if the pump basket's the thing, take a picture of the damn thing every single time you're there.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it, or you said you did or you didn't, or whatever it may be. You go there, you snap a picture, and I want to see the picture every single time you're at that property, whether it's clean, whether it's dirty, whatever it may be, that after you're finished with it and got it done.
And we talk about consistency, right? And that creates that consistency that we're talking about. Customers are happy because everything's consistently being done. It starts to cut that churn.
And your techs are happy too, because now they're not having those conversations, or, if they care at all, obviously nobody doesn't want to not perform well or have that conversation. And You know, a lot of the mistakes that happen, even to this day, it's simple mistakes simply because either a text came in or a customer came out to talk or a dog was there or the gardeners were there and you forget to do something, you're out of your groove. And if you don't have that workflow or that map that guides you through it, mistakes do happen and customers they don't forget. So,
and it's one thing that, like you're saying, to have a process, because I think a lot of us we come up with a solution in our mind and we're like, okay, process, take a picture every single time. And we went through that too with a couple customers. Just take a picture, but then there were several occasions that picture got forgotten or missed or whatever. And fortunately, no complaint. But like, you can have a process, but if you don't have a system to automate the management and holding people accountable to that process, then as you grow, it's one person may always take those pictures, but then when you have multiple texts changing out through the years, that alone becomes a nightmare to try to manage.
That's correct. And there's also this myth sometimes, it's becoming less and less these days, thankfully, but there's this myth that the process actually slows down the technician and makes their job harder. And that is simply not the case. At most, even if you're not very fast at taking pictures, you're spending about an extra 5 minutes a day to solve 90% of your problems and cover your rear and all the things. So if you leave one pump in a down condition and not realize, or even a poor prime condition, because a pump can be at 10 PSI and be great, or a pump can be at 10, or a filter can be at 10 PSI and the pump's not priming. Like, completely depends on all the variables in that pool. So you don't know just by looking at a number. So if you leave that and that happens and you show up the next week, what do you arrive to? You arrive to algae on the walls, the vacuum cleaner didn't do anything, and now you're spending an hour at that pool. And that is way more time, even if it's just one pool you save a month for the photo. So it's definitely a time saver and a benefit for the technician, the company, and the customer.
And with Pool Brain, like, as you go through, the photos are quick, they're super responsive. And I wanted to ask you, because this is a big thing, if the tech is out in the field and they lose signal in the backyard, does that break the system, or do they still have that workflow? Yeah,
no, it doesn't break it at all, thankfully. We knew just from our own experience with our own software when we built this that it is absolutely unacceptable to not have signal in a backyard and have your software not work, especially because typically there's some backyards, and a lot of times they're your highest value clients up on a mountain somewhere in the middle of nowhere with a mansion and a moat. You're just never going to get signal at that property. So the way it works in Pool Brain is that the app is synced to the server just constantly and automatically. And if your signal drops, you don't even know it. You're not gonna be able to pull up like customer history from months ago, but you'll be able to do all your jobs and you won't even know your signal's down. You can put your phone in airplane mode, it's still gonna work. And then once it gets signal back, it's just gonna sync everything both ways automatically. The other thing I'll point out on that is our system actually is truly capable of functioning in all cases with no signal, where I think we're the only one in the industry that can do it. Could be wrong, double check me. But our device is the login. So when you link a technician to a device, all you're doing is entering their cell phone number. The technician opens the app and it says, what's your phone number? They enter their phone number, it's a unique ID, and then it links the device ID to the account. So the device ID is the login. No usernames or passwords to remember. And if your phone dies or you get kicked out of the app for any reason and have to log in and you have no signal, there's no issue because you're always logged in because of that.
That's legit.
That is legit.
That's a detail right there.
That's legit. Yeah.
Adam, let's talk money. So
I like that. Let's talk money.
If I can see chemical costs per pool in real time, what does that do for margin control?
Chemical costs in general is huge for margin control. Like I said, one of the main features we focused on early on was chemical automation. And we were able to take our numbers from the distributor we used for the previous year, and we saw the chemical spend. And then after 1 year of Pool Brain in its basic form with really just a few things, and chemical automation was one of them, we saved almost 40%. It was like 39% on chemistry, and we changed nothing else. We trained less. We stopped training on chemistry for the most part. We trained on safety. We trained on identifying this is a gallon of liquid chlorine, this is a gallon of muriatic acid, but we didn't even tell them how to dose. And we just said, do what the app says. And we saved darn near 40%. So it's very, very powerful. And we actually are doing a lot of cool things when it comes to chemistry automation now. I don't know if now is the right time to talk about it, but we just released, well, I should back up and say we already had range target dosing in the app since day one for automation. So you take your readings, the company sets their range targets for, hey, this is where I want to keep my pools. You know, that's a company decision. You set that at a company level. And then when you arrive on the individual body of water dosing screen in the app, it's going to automatically fill in. It's going to run all the calculations through a Rendis calculator, to be clear. That's fully integrated. And then it's going to automatically fill in the fields for what they should be putting in. So they don't have to type anything in. They just have to look at what's in the fields and then say, I confirm I've done this. There's positive confirmation. They can't say they didn't see it, can't say they didn't do it, but they also don't have to think about it. They don't have to calculate it, and they don't have to enter it. That's always been in. That's been huge. Then from there, we just released a first of its kind in the world, I believe, but definitely the industry, AI bot that can automatically tell you what amount of tabs, like chlorine tabs, to put in the pool if it has chlorine float or an inline chlorinator, which it determines automatically based on the equipment that you have there. So the way that works at a very high level is that you can really just not train your technicians, hopefully, and eventually, I should say, this is a feature that's in beta currently. It's the first time it's been live in the field, but the idea is that an AI can see all of the data for the weather, the past readings, the past dosings, and target a chlorine reading residual on the next visit of 2 parts per million. Basically, the goal is to have a little bit of chlorine left in the pool, and you're not showing up to a pool that's 0. And it can make an more accurate prediction than a human. Because at the end of the day, humans are just guessing. When you train a technician on how to dose for breakpoint chemistry, you can do math on that. You can teach them the math. You can teach them how to use a calculator, all those things. When it comes to chlorine tabs, that whole 1 per 5,000 gallon general rule of thumb does not work, as everyone knows, because there are way too many variables. 1 per 5,000 gallon doesn't work in the winter at all. So that's completely broken. And then you go into the summer, and if the pool's being swam in a lot, or if there's dogs that get in it, or trees are just dumping debris in it constantly, sure, it's completely different, right? So at the end of the day, the people are training technicians to make a guess. And our theory is that an AI can guess better because it has more data and it doesn't have to learn the pool. It already knows the pool, and it just gets better and better. I don't know if I need to stop there and let you break in, because I could talk for another hour on this.
No. I love this. And so, and I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole here because I'm going to go into the figuring it out. So it's the AI tab dosing, and then it learns week by week. So how do you have it learning? How many does it learn for the 12-month? Is it looking at just 6 weeks? Like, how is it adjusting to be able to adjust to the different things? Because obviously the weather's not all the same. These guys have gotten wind and rain like crazy lately that it's just never happened. So does the system learn obviously within 4 weeks, 2 weeks? What?
So the system definitely learns. I hesitate to tell you the exact parameters on it just for proprietary competition reasons.
Good point. See?
But it definitely learns. It definitely looks at past data. It definitely looks at weather data. It looks at weather data in the past for what it was a year ago, 2 years, whatever. And it also looks at the weather's going to be on that day and what the predicted weather is over the next 7 days. Or if it's once or twice a month service instead of once a week service, it'll look 14 days. And if it's a every 3 day service, it'll look 3 days. So it's looking at actual weather for the actual day to get as accurate as possible on that prediction. I promise you the technicians are not pulling up forecasts and trying to do it at that granularity level. And the way we're able to train it is we obviously are in a unique position to have a lot of really clean data just by the nature of the system that we've built. So we can take an AI model basically and put it on top of a lot of data points and say, hey, I want you to predict, or I want you to learn based on these patterns what the chlorine reading was, what the tab dose was, and was there a success or fail on the next visit? Meaning, was it 0, was it 10, or was it just right? And we're looking for that just right mark. And then based on that, we actually got an AI trained up pretty well that seemed to be guessing better than a human, because we can see what the humans did in like 90% of scenarios. And then we took half that data, we trained it on half the data. The other half of the data it never seen before. So then we say, okay, now take this data you've never seen and make the same predictions just to make sure it could actually do it on other data. And it was about the same. We knew we had something pretty special, and we've launched it recently in beta mode. Now it's the first time we're seeing actual data in the field. We're going to monitor that. I think we have to monitor it for probably through a full summer season to really understand the full accuracy and impact. And then we're going to refine it and train it and make it better and better and better. And eventually we can confidently stand here and say that it's just going to dose tabs for everybody going forward. But for now, it's beta. Take it as a guide. And when we released it, we added a quick guide below the chlorine tabs, field and pool brains, where you can see the last 5 visits of what the chlorine reading was, what amount of tabs you put in, the next one, coin reading tabs. And so you can just quickly double check and be like, does that seem reasonable? Is that not? Or if you just don't trust it at all, look at the guide, make your guess, change it. And then we can still see what the system originally recommended. So we can still get the data to see what it would have recommended and would it have been better or worse or that kind of stuff. So cool stuff happening. It's not something we ever thought we'd be able to do, but here we are.
That's really cool. Just down to having the reference chart there. I don't know that everyone appreciates that until you have a bunch of people in the field and then they're not using that data, where a lot of times when you're doing it yourself, you are using that data. Okay, what's been going on the last couple of weeks? Where are we at? That's a huge feature right there.
Look, I'm old school, right? And
I've got like 3 more questions queued up over here going down the rabbit hole.
and you know what? Change is hard, right?
Yeah.
It really is. And especially if you've been doing this for a while, or if you have them before AI and before all this. And we hear Adam talking about automated and knows better than a human and stuff like that. And first thought might be, nobody knows better than me, or I can teach better, or I know the pool better than anybody else. And I want everybody to kind of just sit back and just think about it, right? And we need to understand that this is coming no matter what. AI is a part of our lives,
it's here,
right? And we need to embrace change and learn how to run with it and work with it to our advantage. At no point do I think, and maybe this is where my old school ways are thinking, but I don't think we'll ever truly be replaced in the backyard. But instead of thinking AI is replacing us, use it to make us better of what we're doing. And I had a thought, and maybe we should do this offline, but I'll say this right now and just kind of put it out there, because I'll forget after we're done, and then I won't have that thought for you, so I'll throw it out there. But when AI thinks better, or when AI suggests something, Adam, what would kind of be cool, instead of just blindly relying on, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is already there and I don't know, and it's just my ignorance, but blindly relying on a robot or a machine just to tell you what to do and you just do it, right? You know what I mean? Like sheeple or whatever, lemmings going off a cliff. Okay, this is what I need to do, I'm going to do it. If something changes from week to week, and you have it to where there's maybe a little pop-up that comes up, or a little something and goes, hey, Edgar, we're dosing this much, and this is the reason why we came to that conclusion, right? And why we're dosing it that much, and we're changing because of the weather, or because of this, or because of that, or whatever, so that the technician, it becomes a training tool or an educating tool for them too, so that they're, oh, hey, look, this is why they're doing it, and I understand it, so they can change their way they're thinking, or they perceive stuff, or how they go about doing it.
Yeah, I do think that's the future. So I will say, I agree with you. I don't think the human in the backyard is going to be replaced anytime in the near future. If it ever happens, it's way down the road. And I don't see it happening, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people disagree, but I agree with you on that. And yes, the AI is meant to be a tool to help the human. Nothing more, nothing less. But I agree that there are some really cool opportunities like that to say, hey, here's why I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or have you considered this? I think all that's definitely coming. Keep in mind that this is the worst it will ever be. This is the version 1 beta. It's the worst it'll ever be, and it only gets better as we refine, and then we can understand what we should be offering. Also, feedback. I'm a big fan of a crawl, walk, run philosophy, to where you don't try and make the perfect feature and then push out this perfect feature, because then everyone will tell you why it's crap. So you get step 1, step 2, step 3 in, and on step 1, you're going to find out from your users where you messed something, or maybe an idea you didn't know about, and then you implement that in step 2. And that's exactly one of those things that you just mentioned that would be great.
I have a couple of things. I'm going to go a little off tune here. So if you could do me a favor, if it's any way possible, I'll even pay you. When it guesses, if you could put a picture of Zach kind of going, I'm a good guesser, right? Because that's what I get from him all the time. It's a good guesser.
We went through this yesterday.
Just an AI version of Zach.
And then when it makes the change in the suggestion, have John pop up and kind of go, hey, let me tell you why we made this change and why we're suggesting this change to you.
There's a feature request site you can go submit that at.
I put a little picture of John pointing like that. That's why. Or a little light bulb, right? And I can see Zach, his voice every time. I'm a good guesser. Hey, coming back really quick. I do have another question. I want to come back over here. We got a whole bunch of people commenting on your great conversation. So much is centered around human behavior and working around expectations versus hoping people meet our expectations. Love that you're integrating the AI, and AI will collect that data for the future, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of huge out there. And then big, huge shout out to Mr. Rocco Russo, which is on here. And he said, John, great point on the notifications. You're right on, nose on. So maybe it's you pointing like that. So, ooh, somebody dropped a good question in here. And I'm throwing it to your way. It's a good one. It's a good one. Hey, big shout out to Caden out there. Charlie, big shout out. Leon Tony, big shout out. Marlene, Javi, big shout out. My Dream, Valeska, Mickey, big shout out to you. Gray Shark Pools, stick around because I am going to ask that question to Adam because I can't answer it because I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, but I know that some amazing stuff is coming down the pipeline that Zach and I completely geeked at yesterday and we went down. So Gray Shark Pool, stick around. I promise you before the podcast is over, I'm going to ask that question for you. Gonzalez, big shout out. Clearwater Pools, Eddie Garcia, and Mr. Rod Copperton. Shout out to you, brother, out there. Let me come back. So I think the AI dosing is huge. Because John said, I'm sorry, tab.
AI tab dosing.
I knew I was going to blow it once. I knew I had to just screw it up once. But John starts talking about money, and you were talking that you were already seeing that 30-40% savings. And now you're adding the AI tab dosing, which is huge, right? Because a pool, we all know how it is. In summertime, you get a pool that's giving you a big problem. You don't go troubleshoot why that pool is giving you a problem. You just show up, you got a problem, you try to just put out the fire, you need to move on, you grab the tab feeder and you just stack it full of tabs and you're like, hopefully that solves the problem. I'll be back next week. Really, I think what this is doing is, A, you're eliminating the guesswork, right? You're using that tool to give that. But I think you're also eliminating a lot of that margin bleed.
Yep, margin bleed. And even more importantly, or I guess to that same effect, would be training. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but chemistry training is like 70% at least of the training for a new technician. At least it was for us. Mm-hmm. You spend so much time trying to make sure they understand how to dose pools and those specific pools in some cases. And it just never lands. They always have questions. They always make mistakes. Pools are going to turn green. Either way, it's a very time consuming process. At the end of the day, chemistry is just math. The reason we haven't automated it out yet is because the variables are extreme. It's the same problem that we have in this industry. It's the biggest problem we have in this industry. It's just the sheer amount of variables. And now we have a system that can see all those variables. And we now have a system that can do the math and to your specs too, because there's all these disagreements, right? Especially different regions need different things. And some people are like, LSI is the best. And some people are like, LSI is snake oil. And there's all these, at the end of the day, you have to let people run companies how they want to run their company. You just have to provide the tools for them. So that's our aim, is no matter how you want to run the company, you can automate your processes. Now, you still need to do training at some level, like the ownership and the management needs to understand chemistry because you need some way to justify what you're doing and you have to make sure it's safe and you're the one setting up the tool to do the dosing. So you need the knowledge to know how you set up the tool, but you certainly don't need to train hundreds of technicians over and over again, hoping they're going to do all these complex and time-consuming processes in the field, when in reality, they're probably just walking up and just pouring in what they think is the best amount or an overkill amount because, hey, it's better overkill than green, but that overkill is your 40% saving. That's big money. We can just do that. So breakpoint chemistry. So if you show up to a pool and you've got 0 chlorine in the water and you want to bring it back to a 3 or a 5 or whatever you're targeting, straight up math. It doesn't matter on the environment, doesn't matter on anything else you think matters for your area. Straight up math. We can automate that. The tab dosing is the guess and variables and differences and weather dependent and all this stuff. So that's why we did the AI tab dosing for that. But AI is not the right tool for the job, in my opinion, for the math portion that can just be programmed to be 100% correct, because as we all know, AI is sometimes hallucinatory. It's not the best at math either, and that's a whole other conversation. So anyway, we have AI tab dosing for the solution that it needs to be done. Automated chemistry for breakpoint is already in. And the big announcement here is that we're about to launch, hopefully within the next month, 2 months at the most is my best guess, but definitely before summer, is fully automated LSI dosing. So a lot of people really think that's a superior method. Not going to get into the argument on whether it is or not. Yeah, I definitely know the demand is there. Let's put it that way. And it's never been done before. And partly, again, because variables. Everyone wants to do it differently, very complex. So instead of training the technicians on how to move the sliders, you're going to be able to train Pool Brain on how to move the sliders on the Orinda calculator that we have built in. We're not doing our own formulas. We're using Orinda's formula. We're not building our own calculator. We're using Orinda's calculator. So you don't have to change your processes. I know a lot of people love Orinda for their LSI stuff. All you have to do is, instead of training your technicians, you train the system to move the sliders in a certain order based on certain things, and it's highly customizable, and it's going to change the game for anybody doing LSI. And that's just kind of the beginning of where we're going with full chemistry automation as well.
Look, I just want to take a step back, and I really appreciate the fact, and you made a comment, and you said, look, we're not in the business to tell you what you need to do or how to do it. Your goal is to be able to provide the tools so that if you choose to do it this way, that you're set up for success and you have the best possible solution for that, right? There's many ways to skin a cat. We can sit and have a conversation over LSI or range chemistry or target chemistry or this or that or whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, what's most important is obviously that we're keeping that water clean, safe, and protected for the people that are using it. And at the same time, as a business owner, to make sure that we're not doing what you said, which happens constantly. And I think we are serial overdosers, right? We have a drug problem in this industry. And we constantly, and I talk about this every time we talk about chemistry and we do classes and stuff, but we're serial overdosers. And it's that thought is, when in doubt, pour it out, right? When in doubt, tab it out, right?
Add a little extra to be safe.
And yeah, it might save that one pool, but overall, let's think about the damage that can be caused, not only to the pool or the people that are using it, but to our profits and to our business's success. And then on the other extreme is underdosing, right? Underdosing is, you might as well just piss away the chemicals, right? Because there's no point putting them in, right? Yeah. Because now the aftermath, you're going to have to come back with X so much more on top of it and what that costs you. But again, I just think it's really neat because a lot of times companies or vendors, manufacturers, or whatever it may be, when they have a product or something, or they believe in something, they put tunnel vision on or they put blinders on. It says, this is our way and this is how you need to do it. This is, and you're forced to do it this way, where you're embracing that there are multiple and there are different perspectives and different ways to be able to achieve the same goal. And you want Pool Brain in order, you want it to be able to provide and then say, okay, oh no, our company is only range chemistry. So that's all we're going to do. And then this one might be, okay, this is LSI, right? Well, no, you can be range, you can be LSI, you can be target, whatever. We're going to give you the tools so that you can set you up to succeed. So I just wanted to really highlight that. And I just think how awesome that is, because the last thing, in the industry, especially pool pros, we're stubborn, right?
We all have our own camps. We all have our own camps.
It is. They're definitely.
And I've made them known to
tribalism.
I told them what mine are, and it's like, solve that problem.
Yeah. So no, I think that's pretty awesome. I'm excited to see that and how that works.
Thank you. And you can even do, you said range target or LSI, but with the system we're setting up, you can even do a hybrid model to where I'm seeing this with some companies that wanted it, which is why we're doing it this way. But you can do your normal range target dosing 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever out of the month. And then on that 4th week, 5th week, you could force automatically an LSI panel. And then when that LSI panel gets put in, then you can then it'll just automatically dose LSI based on that. So you can do any combination of dosing however you want. We're also adding a pH floor. So you can say, hey, I never want my pH to be going below, I don't know, pick a number 7, 6.9, whatever it is, or higher or lower. And then when the system doses something that would lower pH, it's going to check first with the Orinda's calculator, like, hey, is this going to lower it below that floor? And if so, it reduces the dose to that floor only. You can fully automate that as well and protect the surface and liability and all the things. Full autopilot, no training necessary on that. Yeah, and then we think, and obviously all this is great, but when you have algae in the pool, it throws all that out the window, right? This is assuming the pool's clear and blue and you show up and you do your thing normally. But we think we can then start tackling edge cases for clarity and algae, specialty chemicals, all the things. So we're definitely on a mission to just automate that away so that you don't have to train over and over again for 70% of the training time. It just gets eliminated. You can teach someone how to vacuum brush net couple days. The chemistry is what takes weeks. We think we can solve that.
I'm just waiting for Pool Brain next year, our next podcast, right? They're going to say that your tech is going to be assigned a mini drone, and every time you pull up to the property, the drone's going to take off. A photometer that has readings. It's going to read the pool for you. It'll automatically go grab the dosage.
Your
drop
pool
it
pal.
In. Your pool pal. And then it lands on your shoulder like a parrot or something like that.
I think this is awesome. And like you said, as we scale, training is one of the biggest roadblocks. And I think that there's a lot of people that come and join us and then they end up moving on that may have been rock stars. They just weren't given the opportunity to be so. And so by taking a lot of this out of their hands and lightening that load, we can focus the training on customer service. We can focus the training on safety. We can focus the training on the processes in general. And they have a tool to guide them through that and help them. And just a lot of times repetition, we learn through that. So if we're constantly seeing that, okay, we're doing this as a result of that, like we start to put the pieces together, that gives us a lot more time as business owners to invest in people and have them succeed, because then we can kind of take a little bit more time training chemistry and hitting it throughout a longer period of time rather than trying to cram it all in 2 weeks. I've been 16 years and I'm still learning every day. And so to me, that is powerful. And then the AI tab dosing, we have pools, and I'm sure a lot of people experience that, where it's like there's a neighborhood and there's just something with that neighborhood and we can't quite figure it out. And if the AI is recognizing the trends and what's going on, the AI can combat that, where it's, yeah, maybe we know a surface level what to do in the scenario. What variable are we not able to find with this area that now the correction is being made, if I'm thinking correctly?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the entire concept, is that the things that humans who really pay attention and have service pools for a long time, the things that they know, the AI can see and learn, so that when that human gets swapped out, inevitably, whether it's permanently or temporarily, the next human that comes on site doesn't need to learn it from scratch in 15 minutes, which is just not possible.
Yeah. Hey, two things really quick. So you're calling it, what did you call it? My Pool Pal?
My Pool Pal.
My Pool Pal. Yeah. You're going to want to change that name. Pool Pal is disposable underwear for kids' swimwear. I don't know what. So we're going to want to change that. The other thing is, especially with this, and let's be realistic, we're talking about creating consistency. We're talking about helping those rock stars. We're talking about eliminating that churn, right? And all these things that we're talking about go hand in hand today in order to be able to do that. So for everybody that's out there that is wanting to scale, these are the things that we want you to take into consideration. These are the things that you have to do in your business in order to be able to create that consistency and push that threshold from the 200 to the 500 to the 1,000 to the 6,000 pools. But even with the AI tab dosing, right? You have a pool pro that's brand new, and let's be realistic. You have a pool pro that's brand new that they go out, you train them and they go, yeah, I got it. I know what to do. I got it. I can't wait to be on my own. And then they go out on their own and they're calling you, hey, I'm at this pool and I got this, and what should I add? And, oh, well, I added this and that. And how much confidence is that going to build for somebody that's going out there for the first time, that they have a reference to be able to use that to manage those pools? And again, it goes back. They have a couple bad experiences. They get a couple pools that they have to brush in 120-degree weather. And they're like, this job is not for me. I'm out. And all of a sudden you have this turnover that you have to deal with. Now you have a tool that's helping that pool pro that's brand new and giving them the confidence. And hopefully it's not Zach going, I'm a good guesser.
Yeah, what people don't really, I think, understand or give credit for this is, and honestly, I didn't expect it either, to be honest, and so it's kind of surprising to me, but the morale of the entire company changes drastically. Your office people are no longer punching bags. They're just doing a normal job and not getting yelled at every day. So their morale goes way through the roof. The technicians, they're arriving consistently at pools that are clear and blue, and the pumps ran properly, and they're kind of fairly easy to maintain, and they don't have to figure out the chemicals, and they're just always right. And they're not getting yelled at by customers, or people are calling in saying they didn't do things that they definitely did, you know? So it just changes the whole company culture, to be honest with you, for the better.
It's amazing to see these tools and what you've done. And we joked around about it yesterday with the name, right? The pool brain. And it truly is kind of a pool brain, but it's amazing to see the evolution, not just from when you started doing pools and then you started creating it, and to kind of really what it's become today and how far it's come. And now you're adding other things like AI into it. It's amazing. I don't think there's another tool out there, especially for scaling companies and having pool pros do that is out there. Hey, let's do this. Normally we take our final word, and then we kind of come back and we talk about final words, but we're going to change it up. So I do have one more question for you when we come back. And then what I want to do is I want to talk about the question that was tossed over in our direction. I want to make sure that we talk about that. And then I want to see if we can get you to spill some tea on some. So Zach, you and I at break are going to try to figure out how we trick him to answer some of the questions that he said that he couldn't spill the tea on. Yeah? Let's do it.
I'm very nervous for this last part.
Let's do it. Hey, everybody, we're going to take that word. We'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the pipeline pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the pipeline pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the pipeline difference: incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the pipeline pump from Aquastar. Available now. Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We are here with Mr. Adam Beech, owner of Pool Brain, kind of talking about, obviously, the growth, scaling, doing all that kind of stuff. Hey, by the way, Zach, did you see that thumbnail? That came out pretty damn
really
good.
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, let me not show it to Adam, because if Adam doesn't like the picture, he's going to be like, I didn't like that.
I do have a question, though.
No questions from you, because I know you're going to make fun of me somehow.
I'm not making fun. I'm just wondering why the brain is smoking a cigar.
Is there a purpose?
There is a purpose to that.
I figured. That's why I was asking.
Do you want to say?
It's a very cool brain, obviously. That's the thug life right there. We did a sponsorship at the Pool Nation Awards, the famous, amazing Pool Nation Awards, a couple years ago, where it was a cigar lounge, and so we had that logo from that.
The other thing is Adam likes to smoke a cigar here and there, right?
I do enjoy occasional cigar.
So we had to throw the... Does he have a name?
His name is Cortex.
Cortex?
Nice.
Cortex. Nice. Cortex. All right. So just to recap. So we talked about the consistency. We talked about the pool text. We talked about work lists.
Checklists and
workflows. And we talked about the financial of it. Let's do a little bit of a deep dive before we let him go. So let me come back. I don't know if I should ask you. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you the question that was sent, and then you tell me if you want to answer it now or if you want it to be the last one that you answer. Because one of the things that we want to talk about is we want to talk about integrations. We want to talk about any new features that are coming out. We want to see if you accidentally spill any tea that you're not supposed to. So the question that came in was, question for Pool Brain, when can we expect linking heritage bulk pricing to tie into dosage chemical costs?
Oh, that's actually coming fairly soon. So,
Damn.
so for the most part, I try not to talk too much about things coming soon because then people translate it to things coming tomorrow. So please understand that. But we're currently working on, phase 3 of what we have is like a 6 or 7 phase project related to inventory and heritage purchasing and things along those lines. And that phase involves incremental inventory so that you can break down like buckets of tablets. So instead of saying I have a 50-pound bucket of tabs and I have half a bucket or something, you can say I've got exactly this many tabs left in the bucket or this many deducted. So basically adding consumption units for mostly chemistry, because that's what we have in this industry for consumption unit based products, but also things like PVC pipe. I use 2 feet of a 20-foot stick, that kind of thing. Well, I don't even want to give timelines, but we're working on it now. It'll come out soonish. And when that comes out, you will have the ability to have bulk pricing, like you can buy a pallet of tabs. So, 25 buckets to a pallet, and that will automatically break down to be a per unit consumption or cost. So instead of having the pallet price auto sync as a large number, but you don't sell by the pallet, you can buy by the pallet and have that sync to just a bucket, basically just the cost of one bucket broken down off that pallet. And then your consumption unit can be tablets, so that then there's 100, I'm just throwing out a number, like 100 tabs in a bucket. And then as you consume those tablets on jobs, as you do now, you just, like we talked about automatic chemical dosing, you don't have to enter anything. You could, but it'll just fill it in. And then whatever ends up in that field when you complete the job will then be deducted off your truck inventory automatically. So the idea is we're building, again, this is a like 6 or 7 phase project over the course of this year.
So it'll be done tomorrow?
Tomorrow, exactly. Yeah, guaranteed. The dream is to give the industry something that we've never had and I've always wanted, which is the ability to just fully automate as much as possible, getting your inventory into your system and then taking it off your system. Because if you have to manage it manually, I don't know if you tried it, it doesn't work well. At best, it's very expensive. You have to have really good people. It's not practical, especially for smaller companies. So the dream is you wake up in the morning as a technician, you look at a shopping list in the Pool Brain app, and it's automatically populated with what you need to buy that day. There's a lot of ways to arrive at that, but I won't go into details, but it's just going to be automatically populated. You can always manually add or whatever, but it's just going to say, hey, based on what you're scheduled for and what you have on your truck and your settings, this is what you need to purchase today. And you'll be able to go tap, I want to buy all of that from Heritage right now, and I want it delivered to the properties, or I want it delivered to the office warehouse, or a custom address, or will call. And that'll probably be the common case. They say, on will call for me. They show up at the closest Heritage branch. They load it onto their truck. It'll then automatically go into their truck inventory. So updates automatically, comes off their shopping list automatically. Then they go do the jobs the way they would do them today with no changes. And then it automatically comes off the truck. So full closed loop from consumption or purchase of the product through Heritage, and then all the way to consumption of the product off the truck, full automated as much as possible.
I think that answers the question, right? Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
That's absolutely freaking amazing.
That is amazing when you think of it, right? Now that is a perfect world right there, and that is something that I'm truly excited about, because you're right, Adam, especially when you start dealing with multiple trucks and multiple routes and homes, and you're constantly doing SCP trips or Heritage trips or Alpha Water, wherever you go for distribution, and you're constantly doing these trips. It makes it very it's very time consuming and frustrating when you go out for your day and you don't have what you need. And Heritage teaming up with you guys to be able to do that so that you can have that integration just makes it super simple and easy, right? And a business owner's dream come true.
No more excuses about it.
No more excuses, right? Or I forgot, or I don't have this, or I can't, or go backs, or whatever it may be. Or you go there and go, I don't have enough. And I would imagine you're going to be able to set up thresholds, right? So you go, okay, once we hit 20 tabs, we're going to need to call in for a refill, right? Or on Wednesday's route, you might go through 6 cases of chlorine. Or on a Monday route, you're only going through normally 2 cases of chlorine because the majority of your pools are salt cells and it's wintertime or whatever. All that stuff you're going to be able to add into it. And instead of it just being able to get down to nitty gritty, I can see Zach right here, the twinkle in the eye right there. This is your love language right here, right? And mine too. This is just absolutely bitching.
This is where he goes in high speed. And we
super bitching right here. And then not only that, but I'm sure you're getting real-time costs because things change.
Yep.
So you know exactly by day, you know, what things are costing you or how much that route cost you or that stop cost you, because it's going to be updated, right? And it'll have a real-time connection so that you're going to be able to have that information at your fingertips. This is what I'm talking about, guys and gals out there. This is where we need to embrace, right, this type of technology and run towards it. Don't be afraid of it. This is what's going to help differentiate you from your competition and put you in a position to where you're going to be able to succeed with the best of them out there, right? We're putting people that have 100 pools or maybe even 50 or 75 pools at the ability of what some companies now that have 2,500 or 5,000 pools do, because they have operation managers and they have repair managers and they have HR. You have all these things going on, right? People that they're paying salaries to manage these types of things, where you as maybe a single poler or people with 2, 3, 4 trucks just don't have the capital or don't have the money to be able to pay for that type of people working for you. So
the other thing, John, is
it evens the playing field.
Yeah. The other thought process with that is we see this journey that pool pros go through. And now they're getting that tool a lot sooner. And we always talk about it. It's like you have to be ready for your next phase while you're struggling with this phase. And we don't do that. What we do is we wait till we get to that phase to then try to figure it out. But putting these tools in place, and let's be realistic, we talk about it all the time. It's so difficult in the pool industry to do all those manual things as soon as June, July, August. We just kind of go, that just doesn't matter, right? But you're completely automating this. And now what that tool is doing is it's allowing them to jump a step ahead without having to do anything. Just do the integration. And as long as you do the integration, you've got that. Rocco Russo is saying, wow, the future looks incredible. So, Adam, let's talk a little bit about a couple of maybe integrations, maybe some new stuff that we have going on. I'm going to kind of go through a couple of things. Let me know if I leave anything out, or even if you kind of want to go into details in any of them. But obviously, you guys have QuickBooks. I think what makes the QuickBook integration is a little bit different because it's a 2-way integration versus just a 1-way. Kind of what does that mean?
Yeah, 2-way integration and also fully automatic. So a lot of our competitors will have a 1-way integration where it just goes from their platform to QuickBooks Online. And it's usually a manual push as well. So you have to manually go in and say, I now want to push everything over, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 1-way thing. We built it 2 ways for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is you don't just work in one platform. You do 99% of what you do in PoolBrain operationally. But your accounting package is going to be QuickBooks Online. Your CPA is going to be working on a QuickBooks Online, and they're going to inevitably make some adjustments and some changes. And then if they do that, now your records are out of sync. So you can't trust everything. And I wouldn't be able to trust everything in PoolBrain if I didn't do a 2-way sync. So I sync those changes back to PoolBrain. It also lets you leverage their app store. QuickBooks Online has thousands of apps, and a lot of companies have processes that are dependent on those apps. And while we take over a lot of that typically so they could transition off, it allows them to transition in a bite-sized way, which is sometimes necessary because obviously we're very busy in this industry, don't have a lot of free time. So if you have some process that relies on an app that integrates with QuickBooks Online, you can keep using that process because the data syncs 2 ways automatically and things just happen. So it's a big deal.
Now let's talk about a couple other ones. Obviously, you guys do the Lamont Spin Touch. So what does that look like?
Yeah, that's another great integration. So Lamont Spin Touch, obviously a device used to get chemistry readings all at once, basically in a centrifuge type thing. And what you can do is on the reading screen, instead of entering manually, dipping a strip, doing your titration, whatever you do there, and entering manually, you can just hit a button on the Spin Touch and it sends it wirelessly immediately into the app and fills it in all the correct fields. And that does a couple things. Number one, it obviously saves the manual entry. But number two, we track how the readings were entered. So did the technician enter them? Did the Spin Touch enter them? And you can see that on the back end in the web. So you can say Spin Touch entered a 2 or whatever. And then you can see if the technician changed it. You can see if they changed it to 3 or 4. And maybe there's a real reason they changed it. There's things that can happen where it might need to be changed, but in a lot of cases,
I can't think of one, but sure.
Well, if there's an issue with a device or something, and you never know. But for the most part, you want to know that history, and you have that history. You can see what was put in, what was changed, and by who and when, and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then obviously you have the Over-Into calculator, which we obviously know that you guys have that kind of into your system. Let's talk a little bit about Open API.
Yeah, Open API is something that we have on our end that lets you interact. This is usually, just to be completely transparent, if you're a 3 or 4 person operation, you're probably not going to be using our Open API. But for really large companies, which is definitely what we're a great fit for overall, is they can have developers build their own integration. If you have a dream KPI dashboard that you want to make and you want to see all these specific numbers in these specific ways, even if it's over multiple company branches, you can use our API to pull all of that data however you want and then produce whatever you want. And that's just one example. You can build really any integration you want on that. And yeah, it's just a very powerful tool.
And then you have Applause.
So Applause is a third-party integration that has built an integration through our API, and they are a company that does a great job on collecting reviews automatically. They also do some things like scoreboards for technicians, and you can actually tip your technicians through Applause. So they've built an integration that's native to PoolBrain, and you can just go do a demo with them, sign up with them, and then things just happen. The reviews just flow in, the tips can come in, the scoreboards can be configured, all that good stuff.
Zach, you have to give them the tips. You can't keep them. Make sure that you're giving them the tips. So Zach will be keeping the tips. It's like, hey, Edgar, said John, come over. I'm going to take you out to, Del Frisco 3 days in a row.
Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
We're saving it for Christmas dinner.
And then you have Water Guru.
Water Guru, yeah, it's a remote management device. So I've said it many times, but I believe the future of this industry ultimately is going to be to where the devices on the equipment pad talk to the internet, and therefore they can talk to PoolBrain. And so no matter what's on the pad, you'll be able to walk up and connect it to PoolBrain, and then you have this data flowing in from all these different sources depending on the pool and what's there and what you've decided to put there. Water Guru is a great device that goes in a skimmer. And to be clear, I don't have any interest in Water Guru. I'm not making money on Water Guru, so I'm not trying to pitch this for any other reason than it's a good device. But it goes under the skimmer, hangs underneath in a skimmer lid, and it can tell you chemistry, and it can tell you flow, and it can tell you water level. Those in temperature. So you can get all of that back in once per day, and the power of that is obvious. If you're only there one day out of a week, you could leave on a Monday and Tuesday, the water level's too low, there's a leak in the pool, a backwash valve left open, it's just not flowing for one reason or another, or the chlorine could be 0 3 days in a row. And then you're like, well, if I had to go 4, 5, 6, it might be green. So you're getting these alerts back into PoolBrain, and you can customize it based on the PoolBrain alert situation we already have, to where you can go into a customized alerts dashboard and you can say, hey, show me this alert every time it fires, or only show me this alert if it fires 3 days in a row. So you don't have these nuisance alerts triggering all the time. And if it hits, it's actually important, and you can go out there and save a pool because you're going to be on the hook for it, even if it's not your fault.
Awesome. I have 3 more. I have 2 questions before we call it a day. Well, obviously, we have the Heritage one. I think you kind of explained it. Any more details that you want to talk about the Heritage one?
Just that they're honestly an amazing partner. We're proud to partner with them. They're a great company, and we think they really believe and see the future that we're trying to develop, where everything's interconnected, and it's better for the technician, the company, the end consumer to have this seamless environment to where everybody wins because they can do things easily and automatically. But we're planning to get it as deep as possible integrated with them, just because it helps the industry so much in so many different ways. But yeah, we're always looking to improve that.
Okay. 2 on the spot questions. Ready?
Okay. All right.
So one of our dreams has always been to be able to kind of have this dashboard with whatever KPIs we want to have and stuff like that. But I think Now, as we see technology evolve, our dream gets a little bit bigger. So it's not just those KPIs, maybe manufacturers with automations and being able to talk and being able to do anything. Do you think that you would ever see that in the industry? Do you think that's possible? Or
So you mean just having a KPI dashboard?
no, like being able to communicate with like manufacturers' equipment and still being able to kind of, obviously you have the open API so they can create that, but is that?
Absolutely. So like I was saying, is remote data, I think, is the future. And obviously WaterGuru is a great piece of that, but there's going to be other manufacturers that integrate as well. And hopefully all the manufacturers integrate on a long enough timeline. I can't say specifics due to an NDA, but we hope to have a pretty major announcement here coming at some point, maybe beginning of summer. We'll see. And then we think it's just going to keep rolling from there. So very excited to keep that moving forward.
Freaking NDA. If the NDA wasn't there, he probably would have spilled it and spilled what it was. Damn it.
You'll never know.
So people always, when you're going to come on, people always kind of tell us, hey, find out if there's any spilling of the tea that can be done, or is there any new integrations that you feel comfortable with going, I'm going to spill a little bit of tea?
I mean, there's always a lot there. But like I said, I try not to do it because it always backfires.
I'm trying to.
What I'll tease is there, and I won't mention names of companies yet, but we are in the middle of working on an integration that's really cool with an AI agent. So this agent, in theory, not in theory, it does do it, and it does it very well from what we can see, can take all of your phone calls, it can take your emails, it can chat with customers and answer questions on your pricing and availability. It can see the schedule in PoolBrain and say, yeah, we're booked this day, but we have this day available. And then it can actually schedule jobs for you automatically in PoolBrain. It can just create the jobs based on your specs and throw them in there and move them around and cancel them if they call up and change their mind. So that is another piece of the future that's coming, is for the really simple and repeatable processes that an office person would have to sit there and do over and over again and take all their time. The AI can take that off their hands, and then the office person can focus on the more complex issues that require a human touch. So I think that's going to be, well, I don't even want to give a timeline, but it's coming sooner rather than later.
That's the day after tomorrow, after you finish the other 6 or 7 phase one, right?
Don't do that to me.
All right. And my final question here, because we talk about this all the time and we see that in our industry, you get a lot of kind of generic softwares out there that kind of try to kind of come into our industry and and I think you saw the industry kind of go that way, right? At the beginning, people used to create one platform and then it was like, okay, we capped here. So how do we make it generic across the board, right? And so everybody was changing the software to kind of be generic and stuff like that. I personally don't think that works for our industry. I want to get your thoughts on it because I truly believe that those generic ones just don't work in our industry.
You're completely correct. If the generic ones worked, PoolBrain wouldn't exist. Full stop. You know, we had the generics. Like I said, we had Service CEO early on. Then we went to Service Bridge, which was the premier platform at the time and really did 90% of what we needed. It just couldn't do it for our industry. And the reason, it's just workaround, right? And the main reason, when it all boils down to it, is kind of what I mentioned earlier, where generic platforms have an architecture that's customer, multiple properties under those customers, and then custom fields under those properties. And sure, you can put in custom fields for your chemistry and custom fields for your equipment, but you can't automate based on that. You can't track costs based on that effectively. You're still relying on a technician to know what to enter and when, and you can't track it per body of water. So what you have to do is you have to have customers and then properties under those customers and then multiple bodies of water under those properties and then equipment sets under those bodies of water and then automations under the equipment set. And it gets real complex, and those horizontal platforms just aren't going to build it because it's quite frankly too small of a market for what they're going after and what they're used to. And it's not their area of expertise. They don't even know why they need to build it.
And chemistry.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you can't do anything with chemistry if it's custom fields. You have to be able to automate on system fields that are very specific.
Absolutely. Hey, I know that I kind of took all the last questions there, but I kind of wanted to. So, Mr. Zacharias, normally we take our commercial break. We took that. Let me get some final thoughts.
I always nerd out in this stuff because I'm going through these phases that we talk about and that we've identified, and I'm experiencing all the different issues, and some of them we've overcome and some of them we're facing now. And I love digging into this stuff because it's like, oh, Adam has a solution for almost everything because he has been through it. We go out, we talk about the 4 phases, we talk about the common issues and roadblocks that people experience at each one of those phases. Adam's been through all of them, and he has created a tool to address those things in not a generic way, in a very specific and tailored way for our industry. And that is completely awesome. I just can't not geek out on this stuff, and I'm excited to sit here and talk about it with you today, and I appreciate what you're doing for the industry. And the other thing is, I'll say, is that you're always so forward thinking. I mean, we've talked about other crazy things outside of the pool industry when it comes to technology and AI and all this stuff, and you've always got this forward look at like what's going on, how can it be a tool, how can it solve a problem and be a solution for us. So
we have more people over here going T. Everybody just keeps asking for tea.
And there's a lot of things. I'll just say we're working on a lot of things all at the same time. And we have the big items that we always do for the forward-looking, big game-changing stuff. But I also want to make sure that people understand we're also going back and making sure that the smaller items and the more like house cleaning items are still being addressed at the same time. There's so many things. But again, I've learned the hard way that you spill the tea and you pay for it. So
he's got
a lot of good stuff coming.
Hey, I asked for something and he goes, yeah, there's a little request page. Go find the request page and submit it over there. Like, yeah, it's just go. Mr. Flawless, final thoughts.
Yeah, look, no, I just want to do what I usually do. And I kind of got into my final thoughts a little bit before my final thoughts. But Adam, I just want to thank you again. You and your team, Kevin, Michaela, everybody, you guys are just been absolutely fantastic over the last couple of years in the time that we've known each other. Thoroughly impressed with the progress that the company has made as far as the solutions that you're trying to provide for the industry, right? It's something that we absolutely need. I'm excited about the advancements and the embracing of technology and AI and thinking 10 steps forward so that we can be better businessmen and women and provide for our clients out there. And these are the types of things that we need as an industry and we need more of. And thanks for coming out and again, doing this podcast. Looking forward to the next one. I know Pool Brain and Pool Nation, we have some things in store for the new year. We have our own tea that we want to talk about as well, but we won't. Again,
you saw how I didn't say Edgar spilled the tea, right?
Very hypocritical.
I kept quiet.
But again, we just align so well. And again, we go through all these integrations and stuff and how you guys are just willing to work with anybody or anything that people need or use so that they can have a better system and not have to go to 15 different places in order to get it, right? And I think you guys do that very well. And it's exciting to watch how you guys have evolved and grown over at least the last couple of years that we've been working with each other. So looking forward to the next one. Thank you again. Sorry I missed dinner. But next time you guys come down, we'll definitely
come 3 days earlier so you don't lose your flight and you don't get late.
Exactly. Oh my God, my travel woes of traveling have been something else. But
hey,
no, really appreciate you, Adam.
We're going to Florida next week, so prepare. You're supposed to land at midnight, so you'll land at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day.
1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock, so you get at 6 the next day. So, Adam, I really want to thank you for coming out. Look, there was things that we didn't even get to into this thing. We wanted to talk about burnout. We wanted to talk about some of the pool pros talking about how do you get yourself where you're kind of able to pull yourself out of the business and then at that point make sure that you have all these things working and all that kind of stuff. So we'd love to have you back for another podcast where we can continue to pick your brain really kind of from that scaling side and address those things for the pool pros. I think these podcasts are really helpful because people can see themselves in that position. They can see that you've done it. And again, like John was saying, what we love is that you're building a tool that solves problems, right? At the end of the day, we're all in this to make money and all that kind of stuff, but we're solving problems, right? And you're changing livelihoods out there by creating things for pool pros that if they just, right? Like, it's automatic. If you set it up, you do it, it's going to give you all these tools to be able to continue to scale and grow out there. Your team is absolutely amazing. Everybody out there, I'll tell you this. I know that you guys are sponsors of the Women's Summit as well. But last year, what you guys did for the Women's Summit out there with the coasters and the team came out and it was all of your team's idea that called me up and said, hey, we want to do something for the Women's Summit. Can we do some coasters? Can we do some things? And then they did this really cool where it was like, take pictures with the people that are on the coasters. And then you guys gave out an entire trip to somebody, which is hotel and flight and all that. And you were a little bit smaller back then. You didn't have as many women as you do now, right? But you're a man-owned company, and we appreciate that you support everything that Pool Nation stands for. And a lot of the people there really appreciated that too.
Oh, of course. I appreciate you guys. And I'd love to be back. And I am very blessed to have the team I have. It's amazing people who I'm proud to work with every day. So shout out to them for sure. Not everyone gets that.
Absolutely. So shout out to everybody out there. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We will be back next Wednesday. Ooh, we won't be back next Wednesday because we'll be in flight.
In flight. Zach will be doing the Instagram Live.
So, hey, everybody, listen. Zach will be all by himself next week doing an Instagram Live, and we will be back next Friday. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation Podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. Poolmanuniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at poolmanuniversity.com.